when I first saw the lights at the tree line that seem to move and they interact, it's interesting. I've had experiences with the lights where I'm the only one in the field. Like a friend of mine was with me. He went to the bathroom for a few minutes and I just kind of openly spoke into the atmosphere. Like, thank you for, showing my friends what's going on out here. I really appreciate that. And then the same light on the south side of the mountain grew to this luminous bright ball, like bigger than I've ever seen. Just me and it, whatever it is. And you get up there, you get up to the last road and you hike up on the ridge line where the trees stop and there's nothing there. There's multiple ECETIs around the world. There's one in Australia, I think Japan, Hawaii. James owns the one in Hawaii and the Mount Adams Trout Lake location. And they're not all connected either. Some of them are just from other people. Like I think that guy, Dr. Stephen Greer or something, I think he's all about that stuff. I know he is. I tried his app and he's kind of, I don't know. I definitely believe in what's going on with his side of things because it's very much the same, except for we have our own Pacific Northwest kind of hippie edition, where if you were out there, it's very kind of like, I don't know if you've been to the area up here, but it feels like something that would be in Eugene, Oregon, like very, very Grateful Dead-y hippie. Everything's homemade but it's nice. The people are nice. They're all spiritually kind of aligned, no matter what their denomination. A lot of meditation, a lot of spoken word stuff. James does his podcast there every Sunday during the summer, and you can sit in with him. I've done it a bunch of times. I found out about that place during my apprenticeship as a young tattooer in a local, like kind of an adjoining town to Skamania County, which is, I'm sure you know Skamania County.
Sure.
Well. This van pulls up and it says Seattle Paranormal and UFO Investigation Unit. And my sister happened to be in the tattoo shop at the time, just kind of hanging out. And I was like, sis, go, they walked that way, go see what they're doing, like right now. And so she came back and she tracked them down and said that there was 95 reports of UFO activity in Trout Lake, Washington the night before.
Wow.
And I'm like, where's Trout Lake? Like, I didn't even know where it was or what it was or anything. And that was 2002. So before the kind of the dawn of the internet. So there's no YouTube, there's no Google, there's no nothing. So I couldn't figure it out. I just kind of had to sit on it like, okay, well, and then YouTube happened. And then slowly things started, and Google was going on. Slowly I was finding out that there's this ECETI place up there, and they have all these photos. I'm like, well, that must be what's going on. These people are onto something. And then I found out you could visit it yourself in the summertime if you pre-register for camping, do the Skywatch weekend and all that. So I've just been doing that for a little over 10 years, just going out there every summer, once or twice a year, and checking out the ranch, and it's always consistent. It's interesting. So that's where it all began.
So like, obviously the van caught your attention. So you were already interested in that sort of stuff. Where did that interest stem from?
Well, I always kind of had this inclination that there was more than us going on. And then just from paying attention, I still am very much like an autist in the sense of I have a very photographic memory. It goes back to when I was like 2.5 years old. I notice things and they stay in there forever. Like just the world, society, the public, history, this, that, religion. I'm like, maybe maybe it was this, maybe it was we're some advanced civilization, and maybe, well, I don't know. And then I started reading books on alien stuff. And then once I found that little section in the library when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 or 10, maybe, with Loch Ness and Bigfoot and Yeti and all the stuff, I checked out most of the books, read all those books. My mom took notice. She bought me this Peculiarium Tales of the Bizarre. It basically was like an encyclopedia of every strange thing that can happen on the planet. Like,
Right. Love those books.
I don't know, I'm just fascinated with things on this earth that don't really check out, but that then have kind of like a scientific backing to them. Some stuff is just kind of whatever. But I'm very much like I have to see it with my own eyes, you know. So I've been going up there trying to figure this all out, and it's been interesting just seeing the collation of everything, and how up in Mount Adams when I go do this kind of stuff, I try to explain it away like, no, it was this. So when I first saw the lights at the tree line that seem to move and they interact, like we do the meditation in the Ezekiel Hall, and everyone would go out to the field, and James has a bunch of really fun, you know, telescopes and night vision and these military grade goggles, and we mess around with those, and it's interesting. I've had experiences with the lights where I'm the only one in the field. Like a friend of mine was with me that I brought from Seattle, who's kind of into the similar stuff, and he went to the bathroom for a few minutes, and I just kind of openly spoke into the atmosphere, like, thank you for, you know, showing my friends what's going on out here. I really appreciate that. And then the same light on the south side of the mountain grew to this luminous bright ball, like bigger than I've ever seen. Just me and it, whatever it is, in the field. And then the second it goes away, I hear the door to the porta-john close, and my friend steps out, and it's completely not there anymore. He goes, and in the video, I could send you where I'm messing around with the night vision goggles. We have like a laser pen that will kind of like point up there to show people where the lights are, and you'll see the laser pen hit, and then it'll start doing some stuff, and then we'll greet it, say thank you, and then I start whistling, and the moment I start whistling, it does the same thing. It just gets bright, luminous, and everyone in the field is, you know, whoa, wow, that's amazing. Oh, wow. Like, come on. It's like, how many times do you go up there and then have the same thing happen over and over and over without it being like you're not winning the lottery every time you go up there.
Right.
It seems conscious. It seems like there's a conscious entity to it. And I had to hike up there myself just to get an idea of like what it all is, you know. I'm like, well, it has to be cars or hikers and you get up there, you get up to the last road, and you hike up on the ridge line where the trees stop, and there's nothing there. It's like boulders the size of Volkswagen Bugs as far as you can see, and there's no trails. There's minimal trails, but it's not somebody with stadium lighting pointing it down at the ranch every single night of the week on a clear night. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, what do you think it is?
I think I've been reading and researching, if you want to call it that, a lot of other similar phenomenon, and it happens in Mount Shasta. I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but there's a couple other places along that like corridor that it happens. And I've heard a lot of the native people say that they're either ancient like spirits of the mountain, protectors of the mountain, but you never go up there at night because that's when people go missing. So I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going up there at night. I went up there in the daytime, and it was amazing. And then another good point is once you look down and see the ranch from that perspective, it just, there's no way forestry people. First of all, forestry people, I don't think would be up there at night, and then it's not the off-road people, I would say, because it's like every single night, and that town is pretty small. There's not a lot going on out there, and it is kind of U.S. forestry land, so I don't know. I couldn't tell you what it is, but it seems to move around. It does move around. I have video of it moving around. I have one video where it seems to be a beam of light is coming out of the side of one of them, and another source of light comes off of the first one, and I don't know. James also has videos and pictures of the classic saucer-looking shaped discs zipping around up there, and black helicopters and all that stuff. So,
do the lights stay like a consistent color?
They're that bright white, like bright as the sun white color, usually. I mean, to the naked eye, they are. When I zoomed the military grade goggles, what's kind of funny, I'll tell you, those goggles don't zoom. So most of the videos you see on their YouTube and website, it's just at a wide pan from 13 miles away. Well, I took the goggles and I had one of the volunteers help me rest it on the lens of my iPad, and I zoomed my iPad way in, and you can see inside these balls of lights, it's different. In one shot, it's multicolored. It looks like blue and green and yellow lights, like all within that ball of light, kind of dancing around. I don't know. It's very strange, but it's up there every single time I go up there. And one of the lights this time that was different than all the other trips, it was way up on the ice cap in the middle of like the ice field or snow field. It was summertime, so I was assuming it's a sheet of ice. Like, why would you climb up there? And it was in the middle of the snow field, and then within a minute or two, it reappeared at the bottom. And it's like, the distance is at least a mile and a half, you know? Like, how did that light go from there to there at that elevation in the middle of snow and ice? It just doesn't make sense. It's not night skiers. And another funny part about that is that the ball of light in the ice field on the mountain didn't illuminate the snow or ice itself. So I don't know. Is it a natural phenomenon of some kind of ball energy thing going on? It's because of what's inside of the mountain, because it's a dormant, or the mountain had blown, and it's a lava field is where the ranch sits upon today. But I don't know when it blew. It's probably hundreds of years ago, because it just looks natural now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, these kind of lights are seen on mountains all over the world.
Yes. Yeah. There was one video I caught recently, and it was in Mexico, but with all the AI stuff going on, I couldn't really tell if it was, you know, kind of messed with, but it didn't look anything like the stuff that I see up there either. This light in Mexico is like jumping across one valley to another. You can see the light cast across the mountains. I don't think that was the same thing.
So whenever you decided that you were going to make this pilgrimage to the ranch and everything, what was that first trip like for you?
If I remember right, I remember I was real nervous, first of all. I think I went with an ex-girlfriend, if I believe right. I remember, and since then I've also met someone who's been going there a lot longer than I have, and she, as it turns out, we've been friends for over a decade. She didn't ever tell me about this stuff that she goes up there, and she is the woman who had first set up the galactic wheel and blessed it before they changed it the second time. And I was sitting with her one day having lunch, and she found out about this stuff with me and her, and she asked me, like, what did you feel the first time you stepped onto the property? And the first time I remember, it was just like a wash of this kind of cool, tingly energy from the like nape of my neck down my spine over my body. It was very apparent, and it was calming, and it was bizarre. I didn't expect that. That happened when I got there. And then you check in, and all the people are very nice and sweet. And, me and my girlfriend they kind of lead you around and give you a small tour for your first time. And we just checked it out. It was real peaceful. We had a really great time. We saw the lights. We did the radio show. It's kind of mind blowing. I know it was everything I wanted it to be, but I wasn't expecting it to be so real. It's like, wow. And this just happens all the time, huh? Like we just showed up, and then the things that they say happen on a clear night. Keep that in mind, because I've been up there during fire watch once, and it was thick with smoke. You couldn't see the mountain. If you can't see the mountain, you won't see those mysterious lights. And then, of course, there's the aerial stuff, the stuff cruising around in space or the stratosphere or atmosphere above the ranch. Not all of it is SpaceX. Not all of it is the ISS or satellites. There's definitely things going on up there.
Do you think those things are connected to the lights?
I personally think maybe not, but then again, they have videos and photos of things like zipping off out of the mountain at like, light speed. So I don't know. Maybe they could cruise across there to refuel. I don't know. I really like to be kind of a skeptic in the sense of like figuring it out and trying to put sense into it, but a lot of it just doesn't make sense.
That's another reoccurring theme with these locations that seem to have this sort of ball of light, for lack of a better word, energy associated with them. A lot of times UFOs are seen in the area, and a lot of times things are seen, like you're saying, apparently zipping in and out of the mountain itself. And that's something I've heard, from multiple locations, not just this one location that you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. It seems to be in a lot of tribal land. Typically, I hear I've got some friends some tribesmen and local natives that they say the same thing down in, I think it's the Pendleton, Oregon area, just outside of there, where they don't know. They don't know. They know. I think they know, but they don't know. Like it's above and beyond us.
So Trout Lake, what's going on there? Lots of weird stuff happens at Trout Lake.
Yeah, there was once an older gentleman that lives in this neighboring town, Carson, who he was an old kind of just like an old mountain man from what I hear. And I guess he had something like 73 written in a notepad accounts with Sasquatch up there. And so that was the first thing that caught my ear was Skamania County, Carson, and then Trout Lake came into it. And I was in Carson and Skamania doing that kind of stuff when I was younger. But once I got to Trout Lake and I don't know, I think it's the mountain, to be honest. The feeling of it feels different there for some reason. There's volcanic tubes and natural forming geology all over there up near Goose Lake. There's the old volcanic tube native ice cave that the natives used to store all their goods in the winter because it is so freezing cold in that cave. If you walk down there with the t-shirt and shorts in the summer, you'll be shivering within 10 minutes and want to get the heck out of there.
Wow.
It's just interesting up there. There's a lot going on. I think there must be some kind of energy well or vortex or whatever it may be connected to that mountain. Because it definitely has a totally different feeling of like tranquility, energy, calmness. It's very different there.
What's some of the things that you've experienced there?
It's mostly, I guess, at ECETI, like the other gentleman was talking. That's where I seem to see the most phenomenon, hear the most stuff. I talked to that strange gentleman that same weekend before that event that was speaking of synchronicity. He was talking about he was once related, or his mom was I can't remember all the details specifically, but it had to do with Indiana, Abraham Lincoln, a certain street he was born on. His mother worked for the family. He believes he's like a reincarnate of the Abraham lineage, and he was very strange and came to my campsite, and in the night he had this tumor or this growth thing that made him look kind of, not so easy on the eyes. And he saw my son and my nephew with me that were also at that Trout Lake Bigfoot encounter. That's what I'd like to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
Because then they could tell you what happened. This old man came up to the camplight after my son and my nephew had gone to sleep because he didn't want to startle them, but he wanted to talk to me, and told me all about synchronicity and this and that. That was bizarre. I kind of look into some of that kind of stuff. James Yellowman talked about it last time I was up there, actually. One gentleman from Utah that was there on the retreat was talking to me about a native vision that he had while he was there, that manifested back home when he got home with his daughter. His daughters saw it and this and that. And, when you're hearing these things from people you don't know who are just open and eager to come up and talk to you in this sacred place or, spiritual land, it's kind of just a lot to take in. But then that evening I went to sleep and I had what some would call a lucid dream, which now I think is definitely some kind of vision of a bumblebee that just appeared, like coming out of my sleeve onto my hand, walked to the tip of my finger, and I just looked at this bumblebee and I was like, "Hey friend, I must know you or something. What do you need from me, or how can I help you? Whatever." And then I just woke up. And then the very next morning we go to check out and leave camp, and I'm going to take my nephew and my son to the Washougal River to do some swimming in one of our family swimming holes that we like to go to. And this bumblebee climbs out of a towel that was in between my son and my nephew in the back seat. And my son starts freaking out, "Dad, there's a bee, Dad." And I look back, and this same exact bumblebee is just sitting on the towel in the center, just calm as can be. And I'm like, "Baron, no, stop. You gotta, it's okay. It's just a bumblebee. It's like a little teddy bear. They don't even sting or bite or anything. He's just warming up, just chilling. Just leave him alone." And he sat there with my son for at least 45 minutes as we drove to the fishing hole. Everyone got out of the car. I put down my hand. Little bumblebee crawls right into my hand and onto my finger.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Dude, what?" I go, "I don't know who you are, but I don't know what this is about, but it's nice to meet you. I hope you have a good day." And I just put my finger out to this fir tree, and he climbed onto the fir tree, and I just stood there with him, kind of pondering, like, what is going on right now? But I'm also watching my family play in, the swimming hole I played in as a child, and it just felt good. I don't know. It didn't scare me. It was just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That in all three of those things, the Bigfoot encounter, because I took my son and my nephew initially up to ECETI to camp because of that encounter. Well, not because of the encounter, but I wanted to take him to Trout Lake because there was a report or a sighting 1 month prior that was posted on a different Northwest Bigfoot podcast. The guy doesn't do it anymore, but he posted it, and I was like, "Oh, Trout Lake! I know where Trout Lake's at." I go up to ECETI. I go, let's go check it out. There was just a sighting, so we went out there just to get the kids out and to have some fun and go fishing in the lake. So I don't know if any of the listeners have been to Trout Lake, but where you park is tiny. The lake is only something like knee to thigh high all the way across, to my knowledge. I tried to walk across it, just never got deeper. And the trail that runs along the lake that eventually runs into it's like a Christian camp or a KOA or something like that. It's only maybe just over a quarter mile, maybe a half a mile long total. And so I take my nephew, who's 17 at the time, and my son, who was 9 at the time, down the trail. I assume the lake stretched out at the end of the trail, because where you park, it's just not very, it doesn't look very fishable. The water's really shallow. So we're walking along the trail, and then I'm doing my best to kind of educate the kids on, like, let's do some tracking. Like, let's look for deer tracks, or, I'm trying to get them into the Bigfoot thing. Yeah. So initially I start seeing trees bent over the trail, but they're kind of like loose leafy trees. I'm like, well, maybe the snow is bending these things over the trail. Then I'm seeing trees snapped. And I'm finding foraging trails for mushroom hunters and deer tracks. And me and the kids are getting into it. And then my son points out this big print. It's a print. And Dad, check this out. Dad, look at this. It's Bigfoot. I was like, no. I'm like, that's why we're here. But I'm like, no, man. And then I'm looking at it, and then I pick some of the bigger leaves out of the shape of it. I'm like, well, and I'm looking for the second track, and I'm not seeing it, but I'm seeing a tree about 5 or 6 feet from the track, and then up on the tree in the bark, about 6.5 to 7 feet up on the tree, all the bark in the shape of like a serving platter is torn off this tree. And I'm like, well, it's kind of tall for like a deer rut. It's way up there. And why would they do it on a steep bank of some like bear? Like, there's no claw marks. Like, what? And all the sinew from the bark is on the ground, fresh and white. Like, it just happened maybe within a day, half a day. I'm messing with the sinew, the fibers, and playing with it. I'm like, man, this. And I'm looking at the track. I'm like, what is going on? So I just took my shoe off, put it next to the track, go to take a picture, do my due diligence, make sure, got to get some photos. I got a picture of the trees. I was taking pictures of stuff. I managed to find the track print, but all the other photos are on the old camera. I got to dig up somewhere. And as I'm putting my shoe on and I'm standing there and I'm looking around, my senses are going. So I'm like, what is going on? I hear something up on the little ridge. It's like right ahead of us. And at first I thought I was hearing a distant helicopter, like boop, 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 coming over this ridgeline at a distance. Because I heard that's what it sounded like, but very soft. And I look at my nephew, and my nephew goes, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, fuck. Okay, sorry. So he heard whatever it was. I heard it. I didn't think it was what it was because it was so subtle and soft. And then right when I look at him and say, "Yeah, what do you think it is?" I couldn't even get the whole sentence out. And then it did it again. And it was definitely not what I thought it was. And it was a growl. And it was the deepest, most guttural, that whoop, 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 that got louder. So it wasn't so, like, the clicks in the throat were tighter this time. So it was more of a, like, just, I can't make the sound because it's difficult. It was low. It sounded almost similar to like when a crocodile does that weird clickety, grunty thing. And it was so deep. It was so, like, the octaves were so deep. And it was growling. It was a growl, clearly. And then I look at my nephew, and he looks at me, and his pupils do the thing. My hair stands up. I got goosebumps. I grab him, and I grab my son by their shirts, and I'm like, go. And we start going towards, I go that way right now. So we start going towards the campground because you can hear kids playing, people making noise. And you can see the clearing, like, 40, 50 feet down the trail. I'm like, let's go. Because if whatever this is going to do something, we're going to be within earshot of human beings. So let's go. And so we start moving, and I'm just looking back. And so the sound that was coming at us was right in front of us, but there was nothing there. It wasn't over the ridge. The little ridge line was about, because I went back there a few months ago to face my fears and kind of figure it all out, and that didn't work. So I'll go into that. The ridge line, it was only about 30 yards away. So if it was on the other side, the sound wouldn't hit my ears. If it was on this side, I would see it, because the trees were about 8 to 10 feet apart. And this part of the hillside, there's no underbrush or scrub brushes. It's just pine needles. So it's trees, pine needles, and a hill line. And so when it's growling at us, it was right in front of us, but there's nothing there. And so it was terrifying enough as it is, but then there's like nothing there, but it's there, but it's nothing there. So we get to the edge of the creek that feeds the lake, and we get in the tree, like out of the tree line into this clearing. And then I don't want to scare Baron because he didn't hear the sound, the growl. I'm like, we're just fishing. Let's go fishing. Let's go. But my nephew heard it. I heard it. So me and my nephew are trying to fish this creek with Baron to, just
everything's fine.
Keep it cool. Everything's fine. And I'm looking into this hollow where the trail starts and the tree line is, and I'm just waiting for something to come out of there. I'm like, and then about 15, 20 minutes goes by, and our nerves had kind of calmed down. Nothing had happened. I'm like, all right, well, and then mosquitoes started hitting us, and the sun's like barely setting. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going through there in the dark. And I think it just wanted us to leave, and we left. So, but we got to get back to the car. So I tell my nephew, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. You go in front of Baron. You keep him between me and you, and I'm going to be behind you. And let's go. And make it quick. Don't run. Let's go. And so we're moving. And so where this was on the top side of the trail. And it's about, I don't know, I'd say it's about like a 35-degree decline to the lake as we go up the trail. So then we're going up the trail. We get to the area where the thing was, the growl was, and I'm just evil eyeing this area. I'm like, nothing better happen. And there's nothing there. And I saw between all the trees, I'm like, there's nothing behind any of these trees. Like, and this thing wouldn't, if it is a Sasquatch, these trees are only a foot wide, maybe 15, 16 inches, some of them. Unless it's really skinny, I don't know. So we get just past where it's growling at us, and now there's something downhill in the creek, thrashing the bushes, splashing in the creek, making all this racket. Clearly it wants to be known and seen, or wants us to know it's there. And then I stop and get my phone out, and I'm doing the thing. And then my nephew has my son by the hand, and I'm like, I'm going to get this on video. I take my camera out. It's splashing and crashing and doing all this stuff. And this sound, once again, is 30 feet away. And it's right in front of me in the thick of this bushes in the creek. And so I let go of my kid's hand. I take like 3 steps, and I turn my video on my phone, and it goes silent. The second I click record, nothing. And then my son is behind me going, Dad, can we go? I want to go. Can we go, Dad? I want to go home. And I'm like, jeez. All right, yeah. So I turned it off, and I looked at the video. It's nothing. There's nothing there. Put the phone in my pocket, grab the kid. We get the heck out of there. I'm so kind of shooken up. Like, I remember backing into this big ass rock, kind of crunched the inside of my finger a little bit. just getting out of there. I was like, I don't care. I do not care about hitting that rock or whatever. And that was the beginning of the day before we checked into ECETI Institute. And then all that other weird stuff happened later. It was a big day. That's why I was so compelled to message you after during episode 178. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not just me then. Let's go.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff that happens around this area.
Yeah. And all the locals that I've talked to say the same thing.
Why do you have all these different types of phenomenon taking place in kind of the same area like this?
I think that the Bigfoot thing now, I was fully boots on the ground, as they say, about it being, kind of like, I'll just say something cheesy. I'm sure the listeners will like it. Like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Like,
right.
From Predator or whatever.
There's no stopping what can't be stopped.
So I was like, all this stuff's happening. I'm going to figure it out too. I'm going to put my coin into the piggy, whatever.
Right.
And so, but after I was growling and I can't see it, and splashing and I can't see it. And so when I went back up there in May with my friend this year, he has a pit bull that I used to be roommates with him. We're dear friends. I love his old pit bull, Bubba. So I knew Bubba would do us right. I'm like, can you please go with me and bring Bubba to this place? Because I don't want to go alone. I really don't. And so we went there, and I'm explaining to him the same thing I just said, and nothing happened. And but I stood in that spot where it was happening, and I always wanted to look up in the trees. I never looked up, and then I literally did a raspberry with my mouth when I looked up. I was like, yeah, right. It wasn't that. It wasn't up in the trees. There's no branches all the way up there, and the trees are so skinny up at the top. There's no way it was up there, and the sound wasn't up there. It was right here. There's nowhere for a sound, a growl that deep, even if it was some animal that is unbeknownst to me. It's not Bigfoot. It would have been big enough to couldn't hide behind one of these trees. There's no way. And so then we walked to the area where we were by the creek, and then I walked back, and then I walked over to the area as we're leaving where the scrub brush was on the side of the creek, where I think it was in this cluster of bushes. And at this time of year, there's no leaves on the trees yet in the bushes. So I was standing in the same position where it was making the noise in the creek and looking where it was, and I was like, it was right there. Like, it was so close, but you couldn't see it. Granted, the bushes were there, but I was doing the, kind of like the chicken head thing, moving my head around, trying to get the light through the bushes to be a darker in one spot. I didn't see anything. And then, as you already know, something else happened right at that moment when I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get any answers. So I just started walking the trail back to the truck. And then right after we leave the area that it all happened, you can't hear the creek ripple anymore. You can't hear the wind rustle softly through the trees. You can't hear the birds chirp anymore. And it went full on recording studio, dead silent. I was like, oh man. And I just stopped because I'm not going to move. I'm just going to use my ears and my senses. And then my friend walked up with Bubba. Bubba's not alerted, so I'm not too alerted. But then I go, do you notice anything? And he goes, yeah, it's so quiet right here. I go, yeah, we should probably leave right now. I go, this is the type of stuff that happens before the next thing happens. He goes, oh, okay, yeah, let's get out of here. So we just left. And then I gave them a nice warm thanks for not scaring the crap out of me and my friends again. And I left. So the next step is to go alone. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but eventually. I don't know. I think because there's so much of that woo factor stuff that I've even experienced some of it, that I think that what's going on up in Mount Adams and all of that phenomenon is just, I would have to just speculate and go as far out on a limb as to say it's some kind of multi-dimensional thing that we don't have the cognitive sense to be able to be a part of. And if anybody ever goes up to ECETI and does any of the work up there and talks with James or does any of the things up there, they talk about multidimensional and ascension theory quite a lot. So he might be the guy to ask those questions to, but he'll give you a Bible's worth of information of answers. So
I just don't even know how to begin to unpack this stuff. I agree about, something clearly energy based that we can't perceive for some reason until it hits spectrums that we can, see visibly or hear. And there's just so many of these locations where it just seems like a concentration of just everything weird is going on at the same time.
Exactly. I feel so lucky to live so close to this spot. Very fortunate. I take friends up there, and most of them are just like you. They're like, even when I show them, like, see, I go, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. They can't wrap their head around it, even when it's right there. It's very mysterious.
Well, there's so many times that, I've experienced this. I've talked to so many people that have experienced it. People talk about, especially in Bigfoot stuff, running into a wall. Where you're just moving forward, and then all of a sudden it's like you hit this invisible wall and everything's different and the atmosphere changes and you can't take another step forward. You're terrified, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's almost like how you were talking about everything going quiet. It's almost like you walk into something.
That was strange. That never happened to me in all of my camping and I used to do a lot of the wood knock and whoopity-doo stuff, and I don't do that anymore because you don't need to. I think they just find you. If you want them to find you, they'll find you.
Right.
And I think some of that intention as well. They don't want to find everybody. But yeah, when it happened, I heard, like, I remember looking at the creek and hearing the creek and then not hearing the creek. Like, I've been hunting and fishing with my father. He's since passed, but my whole life. And also keep in mind a little fun fact. My dad's Lakota Sioux. I have a certain degree of Lakota Sioux blood. He was raised on the reservation for a period of time. He taught me a lot about all of that stuff through spoken word. And I don't know, maybe I'm attracting that stuff.
Do you think that some people do?
I definitely do think some people do, for sure. Some of the people I've met up there at the ECETI Institute, yeah, they're different, for sure.
What you're talking about, like everything going quiet. I mean, there's times when you're out in the woods and something alerts the wildlife of your presence, or a predator enters the area and you may not even see it. It could just be a dog or a cat or something. And everything goes quiet. The insects stop, the birds stop, everything goes quiet, like you're talking about. However, creeks don't stop running.
Not the creek. That's the thing. That's the thing that was weird, because I heard the creek, and because I was listening, I was once again on high alert, listening and just sensing. And with all the tracking experience and hunting and stalking experience that I had as a young man with my father, like I'm paying, and a little criticism, I'm paying close attention to stuff. And yeah, I was staring right at the creek and not hearing the creek. And it wasn't that far away. That's why I was like, oh, this is different. That's why I just stopped. I wasn't afraid to keep moving. I just stopped so I could keep listening. And that's when my friend walked up. My friend was probably 15 feet behind me. So it only took a few seconds for him to walk up. And then I definitely asked first. I didn't let him say anything first, just because I wanted him to, if he didn't notice, I wanted him to notice. Like, hey, do you notice anything? yeah, it's really, really, you can't hear anything. It's so quiet. I'm like, yep, we gotta go. Time to go.
There was another guy I had on the podcast a while back. It's been a long time. And he was out hunting. And he had an encounter where at first, if I remember right, he heard something kind of paralleling him. And then ultimately what happened was something screamed at him, screamed/roared. He compared it. He was like, it was the loudest vocalization I've ever heard. Like it made my ears ring. It was so loud, and it was right in front of him, and he couldn't see anything.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
He's like, there's nowhere this thing could have been hiding. It was so close that it was literally rattling me as it roared.
Yeah.
There's no cover of any kind. I mean, it's right there. I know it's right there. And I'm looking all over and there's just nothing there.
And I'm sure he's in a state of shock where his eyes are wide.
Oh, yeah,
like, what is
sure.
this? And there's nothing.
He's hunting. He's on full alert, and it definitely changed his life. But yeah, there's these reports like you're talking about, like the same exact thing that you experienced, where there's something right there making noise, but you can't see it.
I tattooed a woman a few weeks ago. She'll actually be listening to this. I mentioned that we were going to have an interview. She had an encounter at Mount Adams at Goose Lake, or near Goose Lake. She said at an elk camp where her family elk camps in the winter, but they were camping in the summer for fun and having family times around a bonfire. She said that they heard a fresh evergreen tree go down near them, like snap, snap, buckle, pow, like not dead. And it got pushed or fell directly over the road that leads into that camp, the only road in. And so the men in the family, she said, well, we got to go see what that was. And they said they went and found it. And sure enough, it's a fully alive tree snapped and pushed over the whole road. Luckily, they had chainsaws and saws and stuff to get out. But then that's besides the point. Then they said the men alerted other people and said that they saw eye shine up in the tree, up behind a tree in the tree line. And she said she looked. She said she couldn't see anything. She wasn't seeing whatever they were seeing, but she said that they swear that they saw eyes, big eyes, up in a tree right after that occurrence. So I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff like that happens up there. Another guy I talked to through a different channel, he's a local fish and wildlife game warden for the local fisheries and stuff. He said he was out doing they send them out to do some kind of, I don't know what it is, field work sometimes in remote locations. And he said he saw a large, hairy 7 to 8 foot upright walking thing. He said he got into this area near this creek and he startled it and it stood up and walked off through the brush. And this guy works for the fishery department. So I don't know. There's so many stories up here of that stuff going on. Like there's something going on.
Do you hear a lot of stories at like your tattoo shop?
I ask anybody that if we get into certain knowledge about stuff or certain, if they're a hunter, yeah. If I basically ask them questions about themselves to try to kind of distract them from the process because it helps a lot. As I get to know people, if they say anything about they fish a lot, hunt a lot, elk camp up in the mountains, blah blah blah, I'm definitely asking them. And a lot of them say no. Some of them say yeah, they've heard some wild screams in the woods. They couldn't tell, but that could there's certain animals like mountain lions scream. I think certain owl screams can kind of certainly sound spooky in the night, but you can tell them apart.
Yeah. And then if they're getting like a Bigfoot tattoo, I would assume that would open up the discussion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love doing Bigfoot tattoos for sure.
Do you hear any dogman stories?
No. I'm always curious about that happening in this area. Like, I think I've heard of one or two on different channels, maybe, but I haven't heard a person specifically say they had encountered anything like that in this area.
I know people are going to leave comments and correct me on this, but you don't hear many dogman stories from the Pacific Northwest.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but like Mount Adams and Mount Shasta both, there's just so much weird stuff going on and so much history involving the mountains themselves.
I haven't been to Mount Shasta yet. A friend of mine that's been there says he sees similar things that are on Mount Adams, because I brought him up there to Mount Adams to show him my version, and he was saying they're very similar. The phenomenon, that light phenomenon.
Yeah.
So it could be natural, but it just does not seem to fall into the natural category with me when it comes to all the times that I've been there, where it's when you talk to it. It's always when you vocalize towards it, it responds. Me and a few friends were up there. It was the same weekend that you aired 178. It was that weekend I had a friend of mine, childhood friend of mine up there, and him and his wife. And it was just the four of us, I think, up there. Like no one was camping. It's just us. And the lights were only responding when we were like having our own conversations and being jovial and laughing and telling funny stories. Then the lights would go off. And we'd be like, oh, here they are. And then we'd stop talking, and then it would all stop. And we just wait, and nothing would happen. And then eventually somebody would say something, and it would lead to another. And then we start laughing again, and then boom, it's all back twinkling on the mountain again when we're laughing. And then even my friend's wife was like, it only does that when we're all talking and laughing. It's pretty strange.
A buddy of mine, actually the artist that did my logo art, Jonathan Dodd, shout out to the Dodd brothers. He saw some strange lights in basically the exact opposite side of the United States from where you're at, with some other people. And he was talking about how these weird orb-like lights seem to have intelligence and consciousness to them as well, and was responding to their actions. It seems to be sort of a running thing with some of the witnesses, with these type of lights having some sort of, I don't know, reaction, like an actual reaction in response to the people observing them at the time, which how would that even work? I mean, because you're seeing these things, how far away are they when you're looking at them, if you had to guess?
Exactly. The lights on Mount Adams are exactly 13 miles away from where we stand in the field at James's property. That's why I had to climb up there and figure it out. It's like,
I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, I don't even understand how something 13 miles away could somehow respond to you. But then let's look at it from the skeptical perspective. Let's say that somebody's just up on the mountain messing with you. How would they know what you're saying and what you're doing 13 miles away?
And even if you were to manage to get a drone or something with the light would have to be bright enough. Think about shining a flashlight 13 miles away at someone and how that would look. Or putting the brightest light bar on your canopy and then shining it 13 miles and then calling someone, being like, hey, can you see me? And flashing it. What's the likelihood you could even see it? And then what's the likelihood it would be? It definitely would not be as bright as what we're seeing up there. These lights are so bright to the naked eye 13 miles away. It has to be some kind of massive amount of energy. And the strange part is that light that was in the ice patch, the snow patch. If anything that bright was being illuminated up there, you would think it would light up that entire patch of snow because it is white in the nighttime, you know? But it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. It's almost like it's its own energy source that doesn't cast physical light in its realm. If that makes any kind of sense.
Not at all.
You know?
But I know what you mean. Like, yeah, that's so weird.
That's the kind of stuff that you think it's something else. It's not natural.
And it's like traversing across mountainous territory just smoothly without any problems, huge distances at a time. And it's been going on forever.
Yeah, forever. Why aren't the, what's that place? The Skinwalker Ranch. Why aren't those guys up at Mount Adams? It's every night. You don't have to shoot stuff in the air and do all this weird techno geek crap to like figure it out. It's just there. Go. I dare them to freaking go up there in the nighttime and figure it out. I really appreciate it coming on. Yeah, I've been wanting to tell some of these stories, but no one seemed to reach out, and this was the perfect opportunity. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, synchronicity, man. Oh, one more thing. I didn't like ask you if you wanted to like, say your name or whatever, but like if you want to shout out your tattoo shop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dragonfly Tattoo, Vancouver, Washington. Come get a Bigfoot tattoo or an alien tattoo or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. If you've had your own encounter with Bigfoot, strange lights, or something else you can't explain, send me an email at bigfootcrossroads@gmail.com. Check out the website, bigfootcrossroads.com. You can find links to social media, past episodes, merchandise, everything you need, all in one place. And until next time, remember, there's something in the woods.